Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. This is Kyra and today we have a really cute little project for you. We're going to be making something I'm calling button bees. Now these little bees can be used to decorate your journal, or you could make some little cards like we're going to be making here today, or maybe even some little hidden paper clips, which I will also show you. And we also have a freebie for you today, these little honeycomb templates to use to make little honeycomb patterns on your cards. So I'll be showing you how to do that as well. Alright, so today's project only uses 2 kits. Now we have plenty of bee themed kits in our shop, so I will link those down in the description box for you in case you want to make an entire journal. But for today's video, we're specifically going to be using the French Country Bees add-on kit, and this is part of our whole French Country collection that we have in the shop right now. This particular kit focuses on bees and it has some tags and ephemera and like large fussy cuts, and you can use these to decorate if you want, but today I'm specifically going to be focusing on only one page, and that is this one right here that has all these bees on it. And you can print this page out multiple times and get as many bees as you want. It's completely up to you. Now for the second kit, this is our antique script scrap pack, and I went ahead and printed it on cream colored cardstock just to give it a more antique look here, just to kind of match with the yellowy bee color theme that I'm going for today. Of course you can use just whatever you have on hand, that's fine. And I am going to be printing out this page here for some of these little page tabs and labels at the bottom that I think I want to use to do a little bit of decorating. So let's go ahead and start first with our bees. So if you look here, you can see that I've already laid out some buttons on my bees here. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more here in just a second, but mainly what I want you guys to take note of is that the bees that we will be using are the bees that are kind of from the top down view here. We can't use these little bees here, they just don't quite work with what I'm going to be showing you today, so just keep that in mind. You could of course save those and use those for another project. Now, when it comes to the buttons that you use, I wanted to look for colors that reminded me of bees, honeys, honeycomb, so I chose kind of like waxy yellows and off-white colors, as well as like warm browns, some black, some yellow, maybe even like little hints of orange or peach might work. So if you are picking out buttons, I would recommend kind of finding a variety of buttons, and that can include, you know, shapes like floral, kind of flower shaped buttons might be really cute for this. Definitely different sizes are going to be very helpful here. But if you only have like white and off-white buttons, since these bees are kind of neutral colored, you can still make that work and it still looks really cute and kind of like shabby, so don't be worried if you only have white buttons. And then when it comes to the shape of the buttons, I tried to find some that you want like a larger one and a smaller one, and that's going to kind of mimic the body of a bee with like the larger body and the smaller head here. And obviously you want to try to find buttons that kind of fit with the overall shape of the bee you're working with. So obviously like this large button wouldn't work for this really small bee, and this really small button is too small for this larger bee. So we're kind of trying to match the shape of our buttons up with the anatomy of the bee that we're kind of using it on, right? And I went for different colors for both of my buttons, so like a light one and a dark one, instead of using 2 of the same colors, just to kind of add a little more variation. And then I'm going to take these buttons once I have them laid out and I'm happy with my choices and kind of set them to the side, keeping track of which buttons go with which bee. And then I'm going to cut everything out, so cutting out all of my bees and all of my little cards and tags here. I didn't print on the back of the tags, feel free to do that if you want. And then of course I have my labels and my page tabs here as well. So to get started, I am going to go over all of my bees with distress ink. This is an optional thing. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But I went ahead and grabbed a couple colors here. I have vintage photo, tea dye, and antique linen distress ink colors. And I did kind of swatches of these for you guys, just in case you're interested in picking up one of these. Vintage photo is more of a warm brown, whereas antique linen is kind of a warm yellow. And then tea dye is kind of an orange sort of color here. So So I decided to use kind of a mixture of vintage photo and antique linen just to get kind of that yellow tone, but kind of deepen it and warm it up a little bit here. So that's what I'm going to be using on my pieces. So I'm going to start with the antique linen and go around the edge of all of my bees, and then I'll be taking that vintage photo color and going around just the outer edge, trying not to go, too crazy with this, just kind of keep it just on those edges, and that should help create just a little bit of contrast and pop so that these pieces sort of stand out from any cards or pages that I put them on. So here's kind of a before and after for you if you want to compare ink versus no ink. All right, and I'm also going to be inking my cards, but before I do that, I wanted to rough up the edges using this little Tim Holtz paper shredder. And we have links in our Amazon affiliate shop down in the description box to these different distress inks and this tool, so check out down there if you want to pick these up. If you don't have this paper shredding tool though, you can use scissors. You just need to be a little bit more careful, but you can use the edge to kind of run it along the edge of your cardstock and shred up the paper like that. So it's kind of the same thing. And now that everything is distressed, we can go ahead and move on to the freebie portion of today's video. So I have these little honeycomb templates that we decided to make and give away as a freebie for this project. So all it is a pattern that I printed on cardstock, and then I ran mine through the CRICUT machine to cut them out. You can cut these out with an X-Acto knife by hand, but it's going to be very tedious work, so I would recommend using a CRICUT if you have one. We do have a CRICUT tutorial, so I will link that down below for you if you are interested. But essentially, you're just going to peel off this little gray portion here, and this is going to be what we use to create little honeycomb patterns on our cards. So it comes in 3 different styles. We have slightly larger and slightly smaller honeycombs, so you can kind of pick how you want to use these. If you want to use them, over the entire piece, or just one edge or a corner. So I think I'll go ahead and start with this smallest piece here, and I'm gonna just kind of lay it diagonally in the corner. And then I'm going to be using distress ink. You could be using like paint or maybe even texture paste, but just remember this is a piece of like cardstock, so you'll just want to be kind of careful here. I think tapping works better than like rubbing color on, because you don't want to accidentally tear the paper. So the distress ink worked really well. I'm just going to start with my antique linen color, and I'm going to make it heavier in the corner and darker in the corner, and then kind of lighten as I get towards the sort of outer edge here to create a bit of a gradient. So then I'm going to go in with my darker vintage photo and keep that really isolated to the corner here, just kind of getting a little bit lighter as I go out, and you can see that creates a really nice little gradient for a honeycomb pattern in the corner. I was really pleased with how this turned out, and I think it really kind of adds more to these pieces and makes them more, bee themed. So I was really pleased with how these worked. So here's just a couple more examples of me using the larger pattern here over the entire piece, and then the medium pattern kind of to create a top-down gradient, just like this. All right, so once that is all done, now we can actually start assembling our button bees, and this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go ahead and show you anyway in case you're curious. I am going to be using Fabri-Tac glue. Again, this will be linked in our Amazon affiliate shop. We use this for paper, fabric, metal, plastic. I've never had any problems with it. It dries really quickly, so this is going to be the glue that I'm using today to glue down my buttons. Just like this. And you could do sewing if you want to, if you have like really tiny needles. I wasn't going to put in that much effort today, but feel free to for yourself. I think that would be really cute. And these little pieces would be good, just as little standalone pieces that you can keep, in like a little box and pull out to decorate as needed, or you can use them to make little tags or like hidden paper clips like I'm going to be showing you today. But I just like them as they are. I think they're really cute just to have these little decorative pieces. So I am going to take a couple of them and start making some little tags right now. So just kind of laying things out, figuring out what I like, what I think think looks good. You can use extra materials like cheesecloth to add texture, or like right here I'm using a little piece of twine to create a bow. So just real fast, in case you haven't done this before, I'm taking a long piece of string and I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to loop this end through my paper, and then I'm going to take the two loose ends and I'm going to pull those through the loop in the back, just like this. And when pulling this tight, be careful if you're not using an eyelet. If you don't have the eyelet to reinforce the paper, you don't want to pull too tight or it could tear your cardstock. So just keep that in mind. And then you can use these ends to, you know, add beads or create a little bow like I'm doing here. And then something else I decided to do was use a Sharpie to create some faux stitching around the edges of my tags. You, again, could run this through a sewing machine and do actual stitching. That would be really cute. I was kind of running out of time today for this project, so I'm just going to be using Sharpie to create sort of like faux stitching, just as kind of like a fast little cheat here. And then, of course, just going in and kind of decorating each of my little tags with my little bees, just kind of gluing things on as I see fit. You can add, you know, labels, you can add little page tabs, you can add multiple bees or extra buttons, you could do a lot of different decorating. So if you do happen to decorate any of these tags, we do have a Facebook group that you can join, and you can share pictures of how you use your little button bees with an entire group of people who love junk journaling and love crafting. So I will link our Facebook group down in the description box for you, so feel free to join and share any pictures of how you use your little bees. I'd love to see it. Alright, and we are going to finish up today's video by showing you how to turn some of these little pieces into hidden paper clips. So obviously you're going to need some paper clips. We will link some in our Amazon shop for you if you're looking to buy some. A variety of sizes would be best since some of the bees are kind of small. And then to make this, you need 2 scrap pieces of paper. The first one we're going to take and fold in half like this, and then slide the paper clip over the top. And then the second scrap is going to go over the top of that like this. All right, and it doesn't really matter the size so long as they're long enough to cover the paper clip. It's okay if it doesn't cover it fully in the back, but on the front you want to make sure that the paper clip is hidden, and you want to make sure that the piece the paper clip is stuck on is a little bit longer than the paper clip so that it's, you know, fully hidden. And then we're going to add glue to both sides of this piece here. Make sure to not get any glue in between, because that's the part we need open to slide it onto, you know, pages in our journal. And then we're going to glue the cover piece on just like this. And go ahead and let that dry completely. And if you want to, you can decorate the front of this a little bit by, you know, using a little bit of distress ink to distress the edges, or you could glue on like some labels or some buttons, or, you know, another little bee on the back of this. That would be fine. You just don't want to put anything on the back side, since we're going to be gluing that down to the back of our card like this. All right. So feel free to do some decorating if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and kind of keep things simple for today. And on this back side here, I'm going to be adding some glue just all over, just like this. And then we're going to glue that to the back of our card. And where you put it is kind of up to you. I like to put mine near the top, like this. And that way, when it goes on the page, it lines up with the top of the page flush. If you move it down, then you'll just have a little bit sticking out at the top. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my bee, but this piece I'm going to make a little bit smaller and a little bit more narrow. Again, just taking a piece of paper, folding it in half, cutting it down so that it's just slightly longer than my paper clip, and then sliding the paper clip over the top of the fold like this, and then adding glue along the front and back and gluing a cover piece to hide the paper clip, just like this. And then we're going to add glue to the back of this piece, and we're going to glue it to the back of our bee. And you can play kind of with the direction that you put your paper clip here. So the open side is the side that's going to slide onto the page. So if you put it on like this, you know, your bee will kind of be able to slide this way. If you want it to slide onto the page like this, you'll have to turn it around and that way it slides onto the side of the page like this. So just kind of keep in mind, maybe make a couple of them facing different directions so you can use it on different pages. And then all you do is kind of find the space between the papers underneath the paper clip here and just paper clip it right onto the edge of your page, your pocket, your ephemera piece, whatever it is, just like this. And the paper clip will hold your little piece on just like that. So you can do the same thing with your little bee. I did add a little bit of distress ink along the back just so that it wasn't so stark white. And here you can see the little bee kind of hanging onto the envelope here. So that's a little quick tutorial on how to make some hidden paper clips for your little card and your little button bees. Alright, so that is going to finish up today's little button bee tutorial. I hope that you guys had fun crafting with me and that you'll give this little project a shot. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future tutorials and freebies, and I will see you in the next video.